Hello, and welcome to this episode where we will be reviewing the book that I'm currently reading, and I'm just over halfway through, and that is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Nadine has already read the book fully, so I think, Nadine, we can just do a recap of the story and a quick go through of the storyline and what the book is about. For me, this book is a little bit. Nobody come at me again. It's if you like the Hunger Games, I think you're gonna like this book. For me, it's the Hunger Games with a little bit more romance, romance building. Because I think the Hunger Games is a lot more like more of the fighting and things. I think this is a little bit more about the romance, and I didn't expect a love triangle in it, but I haven't read the whole book yet, so I don't know what's going to happen, but I have a feeling we have a love triangle. It's a slow burn, kind of enemies to lovers trope, which I love, and actually, I'm really enjoying it.
Yay, I loved it. So yeah, it does remind you of the Hunger Games. So the female main character, she is in a world where she has no power, so no magical power, and there it is these trials held each year. I think each year, yeah, right?
Hmm.
And this year, she has been chosen to do the trials. So people actually don't know she doesn't have any powers. And she pretends to have powers, like she pretends to be psychic, which I like that because the way how she does it shows in real life in our world you could do that too if you pay
Yep.
attention to detail. And I love that that Lauren Roberts, like, she picks out these details and then she pretend it's not even pretending to think some to know somebody what they did or what they didn't do, because it's literally you're reading the signs correctly.
Yep.
Anyway, so then she goes into these trials, and it kind of has this tension between one of the princes. And you said love triangle, so I assume you mean the other prince who is not in the trials. So
Yep.
one is destined for the throne, as always we have heir and spare. um, and then the one who is not destined for the throne, he is the future enforcer, which means he's killing people in the name of his
It's
brother,
the
basically.
dark and light side, isn't there? It's like devil and angel, angel and devil.
True. Even with the hair color, right? One has dark,
Hmm.
one has blonde hair.
Yeah, it's
Um,
that Legolas and Strider vibes again.
so I loved that. I usually tend to not love YA books. Um, I really love a strong romance with a little bit of spice, and this one doesn't have any spice, and I did not miss it for a second because the tension it that is written so well that even like when they just touch a little bit, it feels like, oh, that is so well done. I cannot wait for the next book, which is going to come out in July. Um, and she actually has a second novella that has come out last week, with one of the side characters. I ordered
Mhm.
it. Naturally, they didn't deliver to Portugal, so now I have to wait till we're in London to get that book. But yeah, I wanted to ask you what you no what chapter are you in? Like, what's currently happening?
Chapter 45, they just finished the second trial.
Oh, okay. So they've already been in the first trial
Yeah,
together, and he's
yeah,
being spoiler. So I think most of our podcasts we could say there are spoilers. So
yeah.
otherwise it would be
Hmm.
hard to do a podcast. So he has been super protective of her and has like
Hmm.
helped her.
Which we like.
Yes, I mean that's
Yeah.
like one of my favorite tropes, especially because otherwise he seems very like cold and distant, and
Hmm.
but then he, like, when it comes to her, isn't like that. Do you like the double POV?
Yes.
Me too. Which
And,
sometimes
and
we
I
don't.
love that it's double. I like because it was a little bit different in Scarred with the double POV
Yes.
where it followed on.
Ah, yeah. I don't
Whereas
remember
this,
that.
whereas this one flicks back. So
Ah, yeah.
not always, but sometimes it will flick back,
Yeah.
and then you relive his version of the
Yes.
events.
I
But
like
it's not long-winded, so you don't have to relive the whole chapter again
Yes.
all the time. But important bits where you think to yourself, "Oh, I wonder what he was thinking in that situation."
Yes.
It flicks back, and I love that.
Yep. I like
I
that
love that.
too.
So yeah, I think what I did with this book, I made the mistake of TikToking this book before I read it.
Mm.
And I'm going to hold my hands up. I made judgment. I saw a TikTok from Lauren Roberts, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm sure she said, I wrote this book when I was 18.
Yeah, she's pretty young actually as well.
So I automatically made the
Congratulations.
judgment of like, oh, I don't know, 18? Is this book going to be like, is it
Yeah.
going to hold?
Yeah.
Not saying that an 18 years old can't write books,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I was like, with all the TikTok books going around and
Yeah.
things like that and poorly written books, I'm like, is it another YA book that's going to be poorly written? It's going
Mhm.
to be okay. But actually, I prejudged far too early and it's incredible. I really
Yeah.
am enjoying it. And like you said, I'm not a YA fan
Yeah.
unless they're like this, and
Yeah.
it's really good. The writing is really good, and I went in judgmental in the fun. I think that's why it took me a few chapters to really
Mm.
get into it because I was really judgy going in, like, how's the writing going to be? She was only 18 when she wrote it, and actually, I was totally wrong to prejudge. It's so good.
I love
It's really
that.
good.
I
It's a really
didn't
good
know she
book.
was that young when she wrote it. I mean,
I think she was. I'm really sorry if I'm wrong. I'm sure I saw a TikTok where she said, I wrote this book when I was 18, and then it came through on the TikToks, and it came, and at the end, it was
yeah.
Powerless that she showed. So
Yeah.
I'm not 100%, so don't quote me on it, but I'm sure she was very young when she wrote it, and I'm sure she said she was 18. So I was pretty judgy, and I was
Well, aren't we
totally wrong,
all? Well,
so
like,
wrong to judge.
I
It
love
was such
being
a good book.
proven wrong. My
Yeah.
husband would disagree, but when it comes to books, I love being proven wrong. And then in the way of like, okay, it is actually great. And I mean, I admire authors so much. I wish I could write like
Yeah.
that. I wish I had like this. I love reading. I wish I could write, but I can't.
Do you remember being at school? Did they ever ask you at school? Because I always go back. When I would never forget, they asked us at school to write a small short story.
Oh, you have to?
Yeah, at school, like in
Oh.
England, like they in like the English lesson, they always ask you to write like short stories and things. I remember doing one about Rudolph, about this little reindeer with a red
Oh,
nose,
no.
and basically just copied Rudolph. But even though I knew the story of Rudolph, this my writing was so bad. Like, so absolutely 100% respect for authors. I couldn't even, yeah, build a sentence
Yeah.
that
And
captivates anybody.
especially when you're younger as well.
Yeah,
And so I will say this, and I will loop back to this when I give you my three recommendations on what to read next. What I sometimes struggle with is when the characters are younger, not the author, the
hmm,
characters, and they are bantering and it like takes it to a next, like I love a good banter, but it takes it to a next level, as in like, gosh, like this could be sorted out very quickly if you had an open and honest communication. And but then I just actually thought about that the other day. Then actually, isn't it even truer? Because when I was younger, I obviously was the same. Like when I was 18 years old and I had a crush on a guy, I wouldn't have open and honest communication because in my head I was, you're all
hmm,
over the place. You're not like grounded in yourself yet. So it's actually almost better because it like that's how reality is. Like when you're 17, 18 years old, your communication skills are different than when you're in your 40s,
yeah.
most of the times at least. So but that's what I liked about Powerless. It's still, it comes through sometimes that obviously the characters are a little bit younger, and
Yeah,
for us who are a little bit older, sometimes it's hard to read those books, but it's done still very well. It's not
yeah.
at the edge of like where I feel like, damn, get it over.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that the other day when they was having a bit of banter, I think, by a tree, um, before one of the trial. I think, no, he was drunk in the book. And I was like, yeah, exactly, that was it. It was last night I was reading that chapter. He was drunk in the book. And usually in books, when men are drunk, like if you're an older guy, Is it true in reality though? Anyway, but if you're an older guy, I think your banter when you're drunk is a bit more. I don't really know. Older. Does that make sense? And I was listening to them in the book having this drunken banter, and I'm just like, this guy has been built as like the enforcer, and he kills people, and he has this traumatic childhood, and then he's drunk and really childish. And that, for me as a woman, I was really off put by that. I was like, and I know in the book she was giggling and thought he was funny, and I'm thinking in real life, I would not find that funny. That would be an ick. I'd be like, oh no,
Oh my
oh
god.
no,
For me, it was
no.
the opposite because I absolutely hate when people are drunk. I don't drink a lot myself, and I absolutely hate when guys are drunk. And in my experience, and I mean, everybody is so different when they're drunk, like,
Mm,
but a lot of the times, guys either get aggressive or
mhm.
like so basic primal that it's not sexy at all. It's
Yeah,
like this is like not it for me. And he was drunk. To me, he was drunk written by a woman. You could tell, like, this is what we would want guys
yeah.
to be when they
So,
would be drunk. Clearly not for Kim. Because he was still cute to me. He was still cute.
yeah,
I would rather have that than what to me most of the time, like in reality, is when you went to a club in like your early 20s and guys were drunk.
yeah,
Never met anyone who was cute. It was like
no.
really annoying.
Yeah, but I think one of my turn-offs is if I look at a guy and think, "Oh, that's cute." It's no.
It's the cute part of the turn. However, you do know that's why I loved it
Yeah.
though, because his whole
Mm,
personality is not like that. It's only like she triggers it with him, which then I
yeah.
think is even better. Like it's not with
Yeah.
anybody else, right?
No. Yeah. But that's the only time that I did when they because they have a lot of banter, obviously, and we
Yeah.
love banter, um, because that's me naturally anyway. But it's the only time so far in the book where I've thought, it's a little bit young for me that part, but it's opinion, isn't it? So
Yeah. Well, I do
yeah.
feel like with everything, a lot of the time, even on our podcast or on book talk, everything is like you can't, in my opinion, you can't say, oh yeah, this is a 5-star book or this is a 1-star book for everybody. You can't. Like for everybody, it's so different. What I like, what you like, it's the same with like
Mhm.
somebody dresses this way, another person dresses this
Mhm.
way. So some people like this part, some people like that, and
Yeah.
even though we love both these books, we love different parts about it. um one other thing I feel maybe in the next book is going to be a bigger part is like the whole thing about her powers is not really mentioned. I mean, he knows that she supposedly has psychic powers, but to me, he seems like more intelligent than the average person in this book, and he knows her pretty well. He should have suspicious that she has no power at all. And
Mhm.
it's hardly ever mentioned that she has no powers at all. And even though it's such a big part in these books, because people who have no power are being hunted down basically, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I don't know if that's going to be a bigger part in the second book, because I feel that was a big part when the book first started, and then it kind of like wasn't talked about it anymore. Or do you not think that?
Um, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of references from her in
Yes.
there about being powerless.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of endings of chapters and endings of sentences where she refers to herself as powerless, weak.
Yeah.
Um, so from her, I feel there is. It's always referred back to, but as from an outside view, like him and brothers and other people, I think people would naturally be smarter than that and start
Mhm.
to realize that something's not quite right, especially when she keeps nearly dying in
Yeah.
every other chapter. So, yeah, but then again, a psychic ability wouldn't save you from, I don't know,
Yeah. Not
you know.
can't you
But
kind of like anticipate? Well, she said that's not how her powers work, but like,
mhm.
can't you anticipate certain things?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just naturally a very suspicious person. So I would not, I think he suspects it. And I think in the second book it might come out.
Hmm.
I will also say I would highly recommend to listen to the audiobook. Now, as most people know, no, probably not, but I actually don't love audiobooks. Graphic audio, yes, but this one I loved because the male character's voice is really, really good. To me, it's like on
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I haven't read it yet. I no, I haven't listened to
Yes.
it yet. But I've heard snippets of it. I think I struggle with audio when it's the same narrator
Yeah,
through the whole
me
book.
too.
Like with Throne of Glass, she did the narrator did all of the voices.
I couldn't
And I
have done
struggle
that.
with that.
I
Like
couldn't
she
have
was
done
doing the male voice, the female voices, all the characters' voices, and I think if you had like, I don't know, like all different voices for the different characters, I think the audiobooks would be a lot more effective.
that. Yeah,
That's one of the reasons I don't use the audiobooks as often.
I agree.
Um, but yeah, if there's a male voice in it, then I'm gonna give that a go.
Yes,
Actually, I really like the characters in this book. I don't think there's a character that I haven't connected yet with in this book, main character wise.
me too.
Yeah, I like all the characters.
And it's easy to go into it. Like you don't need.
Mm,
Yes, it's a different world, but also like it's not a
mhm,
ton of world building.
yeah,
Right away you're in it, and I could not put this book down. And at the end, you're gonna see. I'm not gonna spoil it for you. I mean, it ends on a cliffhanger, on a massive cliffhanger. But like, there is one scene just before the end that is also like a cliffhanger in itself, where I was like, oh, why are you doing this to us? Like, just no. So you will see that. We can talk about in our next episode how you feel about
yeah.
that, because by then you will have read it. So as you're moving towards the end of this book, you will need a new book. And I've decided I'm trying to convince you to read one of my latest reads. So I have three books prepared for you that I feel you would love. Um, so I already know that you don't love all the fluffy stuff. So there
No,
are a
no
few
fluff.
books I
We
took
don't want fluff.
out.
No fluff. No seven book series.
Yes.
Like yeah.
So I took these books out. So it's the question of like, do we want more dark or do we want more? So one of the books that I think you would enjoy is the Book of Azrael. I don't know if I say it correct because it's not written like
Mhm,
Azrael, it's Azrael, I think. It's darker. And so why I say that is because sometimes I read it and I feel a bit heavy. Um, because a lot of bad stuff happens, or the main character suffers a lot. I sometimes feel like then really bad when I read the book, and I don't put the book down and am I in a good mood, because of like when I put Powerless down, you're like in a giggly mood because it's so good,
mhm,
right? Like the romance, etc. But when I put that book down, I was like, that's like really heavy. So if you're not in that mood, I wouldn't suggest it. The one thing that is different compared to other books almost, and it's a little bit of a spoiler, but I kind of feel like I have to say it. It's enemies to lovers, but actually she is the one more like the villain. It's not the guy. He's not like what you just said, like,
mhm.
the weak one or the like cutesy one. That's not him at all. He's still the kind of character I know you would love, but it turns out like he's
Uh-huh.
not like the main villain in this book. So it's more like the female character, which I think gives
Uh-huh.
it a different twist. So that would be one book. It's a series. It's an unfinished series. All of them are. Um, Book two is A Kiss of Iron, also a series. That is more like Bridgerton and magic kind of style because it's been held at court. Very easy to go into, not a ton of world building. The main characters are, yeah, it's enemies to lovers, but it's definitely slow burn. as in like you cannot believe, like you want them to get together. Like it's a slow, slow burn. With Spice, written very well. That tension is there, and there's constantly stuff happening. Like it's not just about the romance, there's other things happening, which I love. And then the third one is called The Kindred Curse. I think, I hope I say it correctly. I mean, don't come at me, English is not my native language. Um, that one I saw all over Book Talk, and I saw it like mostly from younger girls, and the characters are younger, so they're like 19, which what we usually don't like. However, I
But we can
love
change it. I always, if there's anybody under like 23, 24, I automatically make them older in
yeah.
my mind.
That's what I do.
Like Veronica Glass, she's 16, I think, in the start of the book, and I
Really?
was like, 16?
You're 26.
34? That's double my age. Anyway, yeah.
Yes, so they're younger. However, it's also actually magic, and there's also court. So yeah, I never even thought about that. So that is court as well. It took me a little bit in the beginning to get into it until like stuff was happening, but then a lot of stuff was happening and I loved it. The only thing, again, sometimes I feel you can tell that there are 18, 19, because a lot of the times you would think to yourself, your inner monologue, like just get it out, tell the other person, and you could sort this issue in like 2 minutes. We don't need to drag it out for 10 chapters.
Mhm,
But then again, that's how reality works. Like a lot of the time, you're 18 and that's
mhm.
exactly how your brain works. So then it makes sense. I am absolutely in love with the male character. Like top three, that's where we're at. Out of
Yeah.
all the books, that's where we're at, right? Like I have
Mhm.
so many highlights saved. I was like, oh my god! Honestly, the things he says, the things he does, like, oh my god. So that's where we're at. These are the three books that I'm suggesting to you. You can pick one. I mean, obviously, you don't have to, but if you do, then we can let our listeners know which one you picked. Obviously, you're going to pick all of them.
Okay.
Which one you pick first? You're going to read all of them because they're so good.
Yeah, we're gonna read all of them. It's possible we're gonna go with book one.
Book of Azrael.
Yeah, because it's been on my TBR
Oh, okay, perfect.
since the beginning of the year.
So then I'm really curious then how you feel about that, because sometimes I wonder if my feelings were like in a dark place or if it was the book that made it. Um,
But then again, with Scarred,
yeah.
like at some parts I was reading that and I was like, and I know Scarred is not that dark compared to other books like
Mm,
Haunting Adeline and things that I
I
haven't read,
mean,
but sometimes I did. And when my husband asked me like, "Where are you in the book?" and I told him, and he looked at me and said, "There's something wrong with you." I was like, you have no idea. Like this is soft, but there were parts of the book where were borderline, like
yeah.
questioning myself. How am I enjoying this book so much? But if that was reality, like mm, I probably had
It's
some
not like
issues.
that though. The Book of Azrael, it's not like
Yeah.
that. The dark parts are not like that. It's more
Hmm.
like what's been happening to the main characters in life,
Hmm.
and that has been very tragic, and that feels then very heavy for me.
Hmm.
So it's not that kind of dark stuff. So I'm excited for you to read it because it kind of feel like I can reread it with you by your explanations. But yeah, these are my three suggestions for you: Book of Azrael, Kiss of Iron, or The Kinder Curse. So let us know which one.
Today, I think we're going with Book of Azrael, but who knows? It depends at the end of this book how I'm feeling and how
Yes,
on a high or low I am at the end of this book. What I
I
need
cannot
to
wait.
brave my
Please
book mood
record
at the end of
your
this book.
feelings right after Powerless, like right after you've read it. Record
I'll
your
send
feelings.
you a voice note.
Yes, please do. I cannot
Okay.
wait. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Let us know which books that you have read, especially if you enjoyed Powerless as much as we did. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
As we close the page on this episode, thank you for joining us on today's journey and being a part of our little world. If you enjoyed our unfiltered discussions and the enchanting realms we explored, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts with us.
Let's keep the conversation alive by joining us over on TikTok. Until then, may your reading be as magical as the worlds we adore.